It's nice to see Jack Murphy getting back into the gym, scouting out dates for his wife. Using stress to make you stronger. Yes, there's a couple of different types of stress in your body, okay? It's not all the red-faced pulling out what's left of your hair. No, it's not all like that. There's different types of stress that your body exerts, okay? It tells you to do stuff. It tells you to stop doing stuff. There's a whole bunch of different things, but can it make you stronger? Well, I'd like to know that. That's pretty cool. As we gain deeper insight into metabolic pathways that turn food and air into electromechanical miracle of the human body, we also learn ways to maximize our physiological potential. That insight becomes particularly relevant amid a global pandemic. When will it end? We don't know. It could tomorrow. And the widespread prevalence of chronic disease. A torrent of stress we encounter each day can trigger a low-grade flight or fight, whatever. Either or, you can just make it up as you go. Response via the sympathetic nervous system and leave us increasingly fragile. Fortunately, we can also find ways to use that certain kind of stress to strengthen ourselves. Anti-fragility is a term coined by economist Nassim Taleb to describe the state that it is opposite of fragility. Anti-fragility describes how stress makes you stronger rather than breaking you down. Sim Land's latest book, Stronger by Stress, adapt to beneficial stressors to improve your health and strengthen the body, which came out in July of 2020, reviews the really important concepts of hormesis and anti-fragility. Hormesis describes how low doses of stressor or toxin can be beneficial results through higher doses that would hurt us. Yeah, it's the theory of building up a tolerance, and that can be stressful or using stress as well. It's basically the whole concept of the weightlifting. Okay, like when you start out, when the first thing that you do, you pick up a 5-pound weight. Okay, you just start doing curls, but then after a while, you have to increase that. And by the broadest sense of the term, that is putting more stress on your biceps if you're properly doing it. You're not just throwing yourself forward using your anterior head of your deltoid. But whatever, I've seen it enough that's out there. But no, you just increase the amount of weight there. Ergo, you're increasing the amount of stress, okay? And that's done throughout a multitude of things, okay? Getting you more accustomed to, really anything, okay, by sheer exposure. That's hormesis. An example would be how jumping can stress the bones and make them stronger, even though falling from a height can break them. This phenomenon is known at the core of anti-fragility. Anti-fragility isn't precisely the same thing as robustness or resilience, Land says. Something that is robust is something that, like a piece of stone or metal. You can heat it, you can drop it on the ground, and it's not going to break. It's going to stay the same. It's not going to change. Whereas something that is anti-fragile is going to gain from the stress. It's like a Saiyan, okay? It's like Goku whenever he gets beat by Frieza and then he comes back and he turns Super Saiyan. I know I got that story completely wrong, but you know what? It was just fun to drop a Dragon Ball Z reference. The book itself was meant to create more resilient people in the face of these unavoidable challenges of life, because you can't really avoid them. You can't create this bubble society where everything is perfect. Really, it looks like the governments around the world are certainly trying. We all come across different kinds of stressors all the time. Land warns that being unfit or lacking key nutrients such as vitamin D, that's why we talk about that incessantly on the channel, which is critical to fighting off the coof, will leave you prone to stress. In that state, even small stressors like traffic are going to seem significant. As a result, an overreactive sympathetic nervous system, which is bad, and that will leave you, okay? You've heard the term, burnout, or you're just feeling a little bit fried, but if you're constantly in a state of fight or flight, and to be fair, it's actually fight, flight, or freeze, but whatever, for the purposes of the article and not to get bogged down in semantics, okay, if you're constantly in that, the neurons and the synapses in your dome that trigger that response, they do eventually get fried out, and there's no 3-day long weekend where you can just chill out and relax and recover. That ain't gonna happen, okay? So the small stressors in life becoming literally meaningless, you have a bigger capacity to face even the larger stressors. So how do you get stronger by stress? Beyond maintaining enough key nutrients such as vitamin D, achieving metabolic flexibility can also help improve your resilience against stress. Intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, which I highly recommend for everybody, really, okay, is one of the best ways to achieve metabolic flexibility. It can also help you stay insulin sensitive amid a rising tide of diabetes. Land points to a 2019 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that intermittent fasting has life extension benefits. Yeah, after about, okay, you start to get those life extending cellular cleansing benefits, and the name escapes me. Oh my gosh. But it's about cleaning up the telomeres at the end of your genes. But I can't remember the proper term and it's going to bug me. But yeah, those benefits start to happen at about the 18-hour mark, okay? And then more so once you push it a little bit farther than that at about the 36-hour mark, okay? Like if you do a long-term fasting, like a day fasting, whatever like that, it's not that big of a deal. And it's not as hard as it sounds, obviously. Or honestly, you can just, try it once. You won't die if you go a day without food, okay? But if you go a few months, okay, unless you're one story of that guy who went like 3 years without eating and you just have a multivitamin every once in a while. A very wild story, but no, you start to get the health benefits after that point of about the 36-hour cutoff, and then, anything before that, you're mostly just dabbling in the weight loss area. But intermittent fasting also has other benefits, like increasing glutathione, increasing NRF2, citrullinases, and NAD, and many other longevity boosting and immune strengthening pathways that get activated when you're fasting that doesn't necessarily get activated when you're restricting calories. Yes, exactly. One of the key benefits of an autophagy, that's the word I was thinking of. It's autophagy, okay? Autophagy is recycling of damaged and old cells and the proteins that can be used to create new amino acids and create new tissues. Effective autophagy is essential for keeping the body itself in good repair. Autophagy. It's a fun word to say. Time-restricted eating for muscle building. Yeah, that's another one of those constant fears out there, but people, it's like, well, if I don't eat, I can't get big and huge. That's wrong. A persistent question surrounding intermittent fasting is what the best strategy is. Should you eat just once a day? Well, that's what I do. Or can you get away with 2 or more meals as long as you can eat it within a certain time window? And that's a perfectly fine strategy as well. And if so, how long can that window be? About 8 hours if you want to start out that way, 16 and 8. Okay, if you want to do it at 20 and 4, that's fine. And also your sleeping time, okay, that factors in there. So it's not as hard as it sounds, okay? You get this standard sleep schedule of 8 hours, 7 hours, or even 6 hours if you're just really trying to push it. That's in your fast as well, okay? So, and then you have to skip breakfast, okay? It's really not that hard. You keep yourself busy. But anyways, the answer to that question depends heavily on what your goal is and the substance called mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin. mTOR is best described as a master exploder, sweet, of protein synthesis. When you have a lot of mTOR, it promotes growth in the body and can help you build muscle. When it's low, your body shifts to repair and maintenance and increases autophagy. That's when you want to have protein in your body, okay? And then your repair and your strengthening happens, ergo activating the anti-fragility in your body. mTOR production is fueled by glucose, which we get by eating carbohydrates and also breaking down fat in a really roundabout way, and amino acids, which we get largely from protein, or supplementing is obviously another way to go. Your BCAAs after you train, people do that as well, or also intra-training drinks, but another time. Having just one meal a day is likely better if you're seeking to lose weight, but it might be challenging. If your intention is to build muscle, having 2 meals a day within a 6 to 8 hour window would make sense. If you want to run an 18 and 6 or 16 and 8 to begin with, okay, that's hours in a day, okay, just 16 off, 8 on for eating, okay, and you're not eating that entire time, okay, you can have your reasonably sized meals throughout that time, okay, you can have like a lunch, a snack, and dinner, okay, and then you just lock it down after you have dinner. That's fine. Whatever works for you, whatever you want to fiddle around with. If you eat twice a day, 6 hours apart, you can activate mTOR twice a day, thus allowing you to get a better muscle building benefit. Yes, exactly. That's why if somebody has the goal of increasing their muscle mass, maintaining muscle mass, or preventing sarcopenia, muscle wasting, which is very hard to trigger, then for them, it is much wiser to incorporate more frequent meals. For them, I would recommend a 16-day type of fasting, eating twice a day, perfectly suitable, is actually better for them than one meal a day. It becomes increasingly more difficult to maintain muscle mass if you're already predisposed to sarcopenia and you're eating once a day. Yeah, exactly. That's another one of those poor genetic things, right? If you roll snake eyes in the genetic lottery and you're predisposed to sarcopenia, well, it sucks to suck, I guess. Perhaps one meal a day isn't for you, but I'm enjoying it. Because there's a threshold of how much mTOR you can stimulate per meal and how much muscle protein synthesis you can create per meal as well. It doesn't have to mean that you start eating 6 times a day. Increasing the eating window is generally a better idea. Yep. For most people, I would say that a 16 to 8 type of fasting, where they get to fast for 16 days. Yes, just gorge for 16 days and then fast for 8. Nothing's wrong with that. That's an idea, I guess, but whatever. 16 hours a day, eat for 8. Okay, and a really good balance between getting daily stimulation. In autophagy, not really. You get a tiny amount of it. Tiny. We'll have to break down fasting at a different time, but that's a different point. While stimulating enough mTOR to be able to use, or to able to build muscle. Found this advice personally helpful as I was pushing my eating window to 4 hours, but after land related this common sense strategy, the author extended it to 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, you can do that. Okay, there's nothing saying that you have to stick to one fasting strategy, but I'd always recommend restrictive eating because there are literally no downsides. It's only benefits. Sorry. Well, unless, of course, you work for like Big Breakfast or something. You have stocks in Eggo and you just need to have waffles, okay? And skip out on dinner. See, it's flexible. It's very flexible. Carbs aren't all bad. Yeah, there's certain times you can cycle them in. It's just all about getting those nutritionally dense carbohydrates. Carbs have gotten a bad rap, justifiably so, for the most part. They're still an important part of your diet. In fact, they're seeking to stimulate mTOR. Carbs might be just as important as protein because insulin secretion is a powerful activator of mTOR. Insulin secretion is triggered by the glucose we get from carbs. All right, carbs can be more useful for muscle growth. Yes, this is true, okay? But they're not necessarily part of it. You can stimulate mTOR and build muscle with protein only, but the insulin is still a very powerful anabolic hormone, and it does help. Yeah, if you take a look at the landscape of modern bodybuilding, in off seasons when they quote unquote experiment, okay, something else that they're doing in order to solidify their gains is also injecting. I know, right? Bodybuilding and injecting. Who would have ever thought that combination would have came together? But they're also injecting insulin, okay? And that's where you get like that weird gut shape where it's just kind of flat and there's not really a lot of definition in the abdominals. It's very strange and it's very off-putting. That's why you don't get classic physiques like Arnold anymore. Anyways, yeah, he was just on the good stuff. Ketogenic diets focus on eating few or no carbs so that your body switches from getting its energy from glucose to getting your energy from fat, including the fat stored in your waistline, but then also breaking it down and creating glucose in your body to use for your muscle activation. But whatever, anyways, being able to swap back and forth from relying on blood sugar from energy to relying on fat for energy is an important aspect of metabolic flexibility. Yep, exactly. The best way to achieve metabolic flexibility, adapt a ketogenic diet, paleo diet, okay? Anything where you're not just always dependent on a constant influx of glucose into your body for your energy systems to consume. Don't be a consumer. But simply relying on fat for energy isn't a cure-all. Some people hope it is. Chronic ketosis can eventually lead, eventually lead to insulin resistance or some mild forms of it. I believe, okay, cool, he believes a more flexible approach is better in the long term because you are able to still use both. Yeah, people cycle in carbs all the time, but they're good quality carbs. It's not like, all right, I'm breaking my ketogenic diet and I'm going to start introducing carbohydrates, and what am I going to do? McDonald's fries. What? No. In practice, that would mean that people can do some form of cyclical keto. Yeah, where they eat keto on some days and also incorporate some days where they eat more carbs to kick themselves out of ketosis. Yep. And then, yeah, you just re-engage it so you're not constantly stressing your cycle. Okay. See what this is? A little bit of both. All right. This one's interesting. Okay. Enough about diet stuff. Let's talk about heat shock and cold shock proteins. All right, beyond intermittent fasting, there are also some other ways where you can introduce minor stressors into your life and helping you to achieve anti-fragility. Stress, or Stronger by Stress, also delves into the science of heat shock and cold shock proteins activated by exposure to heat and cold respectively. Oh my god, I'm so shocked by that. I would call that neurologic shock proteins. Heat shock proteins can repair misfolded proteins and RNA, increase glutathione and promote autophagy, among other things. Cold shock proteins can activate antioxidant defense mechanisms and lower inflammation and oxidative stress. All right. If you are habitually engaging in cold exposure through the entire year, okay, not just right now in northern Alberta, which, get this one, okay, over the weekend, all right, it was the past weekend and in the future weekend as well. It was finally above freezing for the first time in 2022. Wild, right? But then, right now it's 30 below outside, if you can believe it, because God loves a good 30-degree swing in these remote, destitute areas of the world. But then by the weekend, it's going to be like +6, +7. It's going to be wild. But right now, it's easy to go get cold. All you need to do is just step outside and be there for a minute. But then throughout the rest of the year, okay, and if the summer is going to be anything like it was for 2021, where we have extended weeks, months of 30, 40, just about 50 above here, we're going to have to hop into sauna. Okay, you hear talks about saunas all the time, justifiably so. They're wonderful. They're just very difficult to come across. But yeah, cold showers and saunas. That's how you activate the heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins as well. If you are habitually engaging in cold exposure throughout the entire year, then the winter itself becomes a piece of cake. It becomes less stressful on yourself, and you become less damaging. You're able to adapt to it faster than normal people. Yeah, exactly. If you're constantly using central heating, or you're using a heating in your car, and you never really expose to the cold for any longer than a few minutes, then you're then you're missing out on both the benefits of cold shock proteins, making your body more vulnerable and more fragile. Yeah, don't be soft. Don't be soft. Because you know it, okay? You probably have some extended family members that live in places that are just basically the same climate over and over and over again throughout the entire year. But if you live in a place with, distinctive seasons, I would say all 4 seasons, but up here in, northern Alberta, you pretty much get a couple of months of summer. Okay, then you get about a week of fall, okay, and then you get winter, and then you get an off and on kind of a bipolar spring season, spring, winter, okay, and then all the snow's gone, and then it's just summer again, okay, so we kind of have like 3 seasons, kind of. But yeah, we experience anything from, like last year in particular, 50 above and 50 below, and any and everywhere in between. So if you get a good mix of that throughout the year, I wouldn't recommend it, in close proximity to one another, but if you experience both, then you're farther ahead than everybody else, and it's very easy for you to be like, okay, cool, November's rolling around, it's going to get cold, okay, April's rolling around, eventually it's going to be back to double digits above zero again at some point in time. Muscle building is essential to avoid sarcopenia. Yeah, you have muscle, you can't waste it. Let's just scoot on by past that one. This video's going on long enough, but I really like it. I do like it. It's just long, okay? Life is full of challenges and difficulties. The good news is the key lessons we learn from land, okay, is that we can better prepare ourselves for these inevitable hardships to introducing minor stressors. It's important to engage in these small stressors that have a hormetic effect on a regular basis because they're not permanent. You get to use them. If you don't use them, you will lose them if you don't use them. Where have I heard that before? Oh yes, from a really awful comedy that ended up just destroying the comedy movie. Anyways, so if you don't use the sauna, then you're going to lose your ability to tolerate heat, and the same applies to exercise, to fasting. For those of you, those things should be a part of your regular lifestyle. It's really beneficial to your overall longevity as well as resilience against stress. So personally, I feel that doing intermittent fasting, cold showers, heat exposure, all of those things have helped me to tolerate stress in the areas of life much better. Wow, that sounds like something I could just absolutely say. I'm able to tolerate stress from work, able to tolerate stress from other people, that I don't get triggered and don't get angry at other people, stressed out from those other things because my stress resiliency is much higher than the average person. yeah, stop shying away from things that you don't want to do. By just engaging them, you will become stronger and a better person. I know, right? Just a little secret between us friends here. But anyways, guys, long enough here. Don't normally go this long on the channel, but I liked the article and I liked going through most of it with you. Hopefully you gained some information from that. And until next time, I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.